morning to all. In today's session, we are all going to learn about the ethical entrepreneurship and the family business. So let's begin with the term of ethical behavior. What is exactly the ethical behavior is? Ethical behavior refers a practice of making up a decision and act in a various ways that are morally correct or wrong with social norms and values. It also includes being honest, fair, and respectful for others. Ethical behavior are very necessary in the professional environment or at workplace. Ethical behavior is a work in the workplace can help to build the trust and improve team performance. It is also important for the organization to adopt the ethical working practices, norms, and policies. It can also go beyond the legal requirements in the organization. Ethical behavior in other perspective. Ethical behavior can also be applied in academic and research settings as well. It can be applied in a multicultural workforces or manpower. It can be applied in an interpersonal relationship as well. While having a communication between the two or more person, the social norms and values which always been exist in during the conversation and keeping in mind during the conversation. Few examples of such concept: following the company rules and regulation are ethical behavior, being truthful and honest with others, respecting others, making up the decisions that consider the well-being of others, taking responsibility for your own action, and resolving the conflicts in a respectful and sustainable manner. What are the key advantages of ethical behavior? The first one is a stronger stakeholder relationship. It also builds the trust and the loyalty with all the stakeholders, namely customers, employees, investors, creditors, etc., which leads to a stronger relationship and a positive image in the minds of the stakeholders. The next advantage is the employee morally and retention. Employees are more likely to be satisfied and committed towards the achievement of the company goals that operates ethically and leading to a lower turnover rates. Next is the attracting the top talent. A strong ethical reputation of the company can easily attract a talented or a high quality employees who actually value the ethical practices. Next, the positive public image. Ethical conduct can also enhance or ensure the company reputation and the public perception that actually leads to a positive media coverage and the customer loyalty. The next advantage is the improved decision making. Ethical framework which also provides a structural approach to the decision making, which also helps to avoid the risky choices or unethical choices by the organizations. Next is a legal compliance. You can say adopting the ethical principles can also helps to prevent from any legal issues or associated cost related to a legal matters. Next is increased innovation. An ethical environment can also build the creativity and innovation by to encourage the open communication and collaboration with others. Let's talk about the next section, that is the disadvantages of ethical behavior. The first one is the short term profit sacrifices. Sometimes ethical choices is also required, the sacrifices of a short-term profits to uphold or to hold the ethical principles in the organizations. Next is the complexity in decision making. Navigating the complex ethical dilemmas or situations can be challenging for the organizations when they faced with the conflicting priorities. Next, enforcement challenges. In order to implement and maintain the ethical standards in the organization, of course, it requires the ongoing monitoring and enforcement mechanism, which would be a resource intensive. Next is a competitive disadvantage. In certain markets, strictly adhere to ethical practices might put the company to the competitive advantage if the competitors engaged in the unethical behavior. Perceived cost burden. Some business might perceive implementing the ethical practices can be an additional burden towards the costs. The next concept is ethical entrepreneurship. Ethical entrepreneurship means to run a business with a strong moral values, principles, which not only focus on profit but also focus towards the welfare of the employees, customers, community, and the environment to make sure that the meaningful decision could be prepared that to be considered morally right. Even such decisions are also facing the challenges in it, and that's called ethical entrepreneurship. A few examples to reflect this concept. The first one is a fair trade coffee company, a company that sources coffee beans directly from the small scale farmers in developing countries, which ensures to receive a fair price for their product, promoting a sustainable farming practices and contributing to the local community development. Next example could be the eco-friendly clothing brand, a fashion label that focus using recycled materials to minimize the waste in production and paying the workers the high fair wages while still producing a stylish or a high quality clothing. The next is socially responsible tech startup, a company that develops technology solution which also aimed at addressing the social issues like access to education or healthcare in undeserved communities while ensuring that their operations are ethical. The next section are the key points about the ethical entrepreneurship. First one, it mainly focus on values. Ethical entrepreneur actively integrates the ethical principles along with the social responsibilities and values in its business operation, and the principles that they adopt like honesty, transparency, fairness, or any social responsibility. The next is the stakeholder consideration. It always goes beyond just not pleasing the consumers and investors, but also consider the impact and need of all the stakeholders that could be morally right. Either it could include the employees, suppliers, or the wider community. Next is a decision making framework. This concept use a very comprehensive ethical framework which not only guide to the decision makers but also consider the potential consequences of their actions to all the interested parties who are involved in the decision making process. The next section is the ethical dilemmas in a business organization. So, what are the ethical dilemmas in this in the organization? The first one is the corporate criminal behavior. So, using the company resources for personal gains, like sending personal mails during working hours, inflating expenses, is another unethical behavior or practice that people normally engaged in it. The necessity for appropriate legislation to preserve the privacy problems is a most fundamental concern in the current situation. So this is also the one of the most important ethical dilemma that exist in the organization. Next is a distributive and the procedural justice. There are two major problems that the worker face in the organization, that could be the appropriate mechanism for allocating the resources is fundamental to the procedural fairness, while distributive conscious is what a person and employee receive in the organization. The next is in-depth conduct. Inappropriate treatment can also be seen in the organization with the employees. Either it could be the verbal or emotional, you can say treatment, inappropriate treatment that creates the workforce environment that to be into turn into the stress or fear. So it makes the employees to be more stress, lower productivity, and so on. Concern will goes. To stop these sort of operations within their organization, entrepreneurs must take a serious measures to avoid inappropriate treatment with the employees. Next is a social responsibility. Company must have a responsibility to the community to improve by investing a social causes like food and education and environment. And the company should encourage doing a public welfare activities, developing the infrastructure to support their you can say their employees, and of course the society as well. The next one is a legal responsibility. A startup must take care to secure the necessary regulatory authorization, licensing, and the certificates from the relevant government bodies. Next is the commitment to consumer. Startups must respond to consumer concerns and commits, and of course try to refrain from taking any measures that could be helpful for their interests. And the last one is the commitment to the employees. The startup should treat the employees' rights with morals and be compliant with the law. And additionally, employees should get the regular payments of their salaries and benefits, and have a you can say system in place of making the complaints to maintain the healthy growth of the company. The next section is the integration of ethics into the various economic areas. That means in every areas ethics plays a very significant role in it. First, the agricultural sector. Ethical concepts and tools ensures a varieties of issues in the food system. Their main focus to assist the experts and others who are willing to engage in these issues, like navigating the topic of ethics or apply to agriculture in the form of animal welfare, farm structure composition, food safety measures, environmental impact. Then these issues is always address the issue of hunger and so on. According to the Starbucks 2020 Global Social Impact Report, the company has made a significant contribution to the corporate social responsibility by using only properly sourced coffee and developing a global network of farmers and providing them with 100 million trees to plant by 2025, and it refers a green revolution, a green building of all of its stores, donating the millions of hours to community services and developing a groundbreaking program for its employees, according to Starbucks report 2021. The next economic area is tourism. To safeguard the interest of the customer using such services, it is important to protect the nature and environment of the tourist destination, their rights, the residents' rights, the obligation of the tourist authorities, the professional, the guides who ensures that the green signal is to be provided to the hotel and the tourism industry, who always adhere the good ethics condition for the tourism industry. Let's take an example to understand. According to the Inido resorts, that could be 4 resorts in the Philippine, you can see archipelago of Palawan. These resorts were built with the renewable indigenous materials that were integrated into the hotel architecture, such as repurposed wood from the previous Filipino homes when advanced seepage treatment facility, solar panels, composing or organic farms are on-site groups will quickly realize they can gather the guilt-free tourism. Next is the telecommunications sector. Ethics always take into an account a wide examples of the dilemmas in technology. Major problems can also exist in this area, including the improper confidentiality and security, the privacy concern, the spammers, unauthorized use of social networking in payments, and of course, the investment fraud. So, since the telecom sector is growing dramatically, numerous problems can also occur if ethics and norms are not to be applied. In order to prevent from unethical norms, it is suitable to have a preventive strategy that to be put in place and regularly checked by the organizations. Next is trade. A well-managed trade is also helps all. A sound plan is also need to be implemented for hiring in a financially driven moral principle projects that needed to achieve sustainability. So there are entrepreneurs who come forward and conduct operations on a global scale, are expected to follow all the regulatory safety requirements, including the environmental regulations. Next is education. Education ethics are also important because they support the whole system efficiency. By defining the acceptable or unacceptable behavior, code of ethics is always aims to safeguard the interest of both teachers and students. And that's why the four fundamental principles of teaching are respect for human dignity, honesty, fairness, and individual freedom. In India, corporate social responsibility program was launched to assist 23,000 of students during the COVID-19 pandemic by providing them with online classes. Any amount spent in the period of 2000 to 2021 was 20.92 crore to achieve a zero dropout and improve the school lessons. Next is financial and banking. This sector is also involved in a variety of ethical problems, including the lack of adequate training, trust, openness, competition, pressure, and such complexities of financial operation. The main problem is of money laundering. So banks can build their brand reputation by uh, adopting the moral behavior. The customer who cares about the ethics or a code of ethics are likely to draw it by a brand reputation, and as a result the consumer base should grow and their revenue should also rise if a moral behavior could adopt by the banks. And the issue of non-performing loans will also be considered relieved for the banks only. The next concept, what is family business? Family business is a business that is owned, operated, handled by two or more members of a family, and that is called family business. And these members should be blood related or related by marriage or any adoption. A family owned business has to have the following qualities, like a family has its own majority percentage of ownership. First, he or she has to have a control over the voting system. He or she should possess power in a strategic decision making. The concerned person must have a multiple generation of that single family business have to be involved in that particular business. The same family has to draw the senior management of that firm. When these features or qualities have in the family business and handled, managed, and owned by two or more family members, that is exactly called the family business. Then few examples of the family business. The cash car wash, a lower investment business idea that requires the car wash equipment or location of water. Next, event planning. A family business involves organizing and managing events. Photography, a creative business that can capture memories of others like family portraits, event photography, or corporate head shots. Next is restaurant. A family business can be a great way to bond and spend time together. Doggy daycare, a family business that can be a great idea if you love dogs. Tour company, a family business that can be good way to make company form tourists who wants to learn more about your city history. Jewelry business, a family business that can be cheap to start but still profitable in India. Now we can come up to the advantage of family business. The first one is stability. Since there is a longevity in the leadership position, of course there could it stand, or you can say stability in the family owned business. In these businesses, a leader must hold a position for years to spend their life on the following aspects like retirement, illness, death degree, the change at the top. Next is commitment. Family business must have a greater retention power towards the work and shows commitment and accountability than the non-family business, as there is a need for business as well as the family. These characteristics is always increases the benefits like understanding the industry, organization, and job, and accordingly the effective marketing and stronger customer relationship needs to be built up. Next is flexibility. while non-family business have delineated responsibility for individual roles, but the members of family business can take on tasks outside of their predetermined roles. The next one is a long term outlook. Non family firms have to draw goals for the coming quarter, while the family firms can think of all those goals about clear decision making culture throughout their own businesses. The next section are the disadvantages of family business. The first one is a lack of family interest. Sometimes future generation are not interested in participating or to engage into a family business, and this results or this leads to be unenthusiastic, apathetic and the disengaged workforce management. Next is the conflicts between family members. The relationship between family members, family history, and almost the boundaries exist between the work life and the family life can be conflicting, and the family connection make these issues more complex. The next is a lack of structure. Since family business depends on trust, bond, and loyalty, but somehow it also lack due to a proper internal rules as well as the external corporate law. The next is nepotism. Some family business promote the family members for a senior marriageable position, even through these members having a lack of education, skills, or potential to fulfill these responsibility, and this is a main drawback or a negative impact on the company success. Next is succession planning. Many family run businesses lack clearly defined succession plans, but in case of the emergency or to appoint any successor due to the scandal, illness, or death of the member, it might hard for the business to decide upon the successor, and that's why it is one of the limitation of family business. Let's talk about the next section, that is the theories of family business. The first one is a system theory. These three circle model is generally accepted as a standard model for the family business, because after all it includes the family business ownership, which is a three main components of the business, and their acknowledgement is also portray a significant achievement for the family business, and the circles which are constantly you can say intervened under this model, it always brings you can say brings an innovations and inventions which are needed to the company, and somehow due to such reason this theories also reflect the few limitations that could be the poor communication, resentment, and the lack of commitment to the future. These are the concern that the family business or a business family is try to prevent. The next theory is the agency theory. Agency theory refers a relationship between the principals and the agents in the businesses. And agents, we can all talk about the stakeholders. Agency theory is made to reduce the conflict of interest between the owners and managers of the firm. The and agency relationship are must to is must for the organization, and it occurs when the principals hire the agent to perform a service on the principal's behalf, and the agents are the third parties providers. So how on the absence of the principal, how they perform the task on behalf of the principal, and how they build up the relationship with the principal. And principals always delegate the decision making authority to the agents only. The next theory is a resource based theory. Resource based theory offers a different perspective to focus on unique resources that a family business process, and these resources provide a competitive advantage and of course contribute to the business for a long term success. Then what are the unique features of this? The social capital, the strong relationship and network within the family and community can facilitate the business opportunities and have a good access to the valuable information. Next is a patient capital. Family businesses are willing to take up a long term view, which always allow them to invest in a high profile projects with the extended payback periods. Next is a reputation. A family business reputation for a trustworthiness and the reliability can also attract the loyal customers and partners or clients as well. The next theory is stewardship theory. Stewardship theory provides a refreshing contrast to the agency theory. It mainly focuses on the collaborative relationship between the owners and managers. So in this particular type, in the family business, this theory is mainly focused to share the commitment to the business success and achievement of the goals between the family members and the professional managers. Then, and what are the characteristics of this theory? The first one is a collaborative relationship. This theory is always point out that the family members and managers are more likely to act as stewards of the business, more focus on the long term success over the personal benefit. And this collaborative approach, which always build a sense of shared responsibility and trust among the family members, and of course the build a trust towards the all the stakeholders to maintain the cohesive organizational culture. The next is building a stewardship culture. It is equally important to create or maintain the steward culture. The family business should focus to build a strong relationship and align the incentives as well. Regular communication, joint decision making, and how they upgrade the ownership structures, which always helps them the sense to reinforce the sense of stewardship and ensure that everyone is working towards the same goals. The next theory is a stakeholder theory. Stakeholder theory considers the interest of all the stakeholders, including family members, employees, customers, suppliers, community, etc. This theory is mainly focused on the importance of balancing the needs and expectation of these diverse groups to ensure the business long-term sustainability. And this family business has a deep rooted connection to all their communities and the strong sense of responsibilities towards all the stakeholders. For example, the few characteristics can also be termed as examples. The first one is employee well-being. Always focus on the welfare of the employees through fair wages, benefits, and a positive work environment. Community engagement, supporting the local initiatives, charities, social causes that benefit the community. Customer satisfaction is the most important for the organizations. So it should maintain the highest standard of quality and service to build up and retain the customer trust. The next section are the challenges and issues facing the family business. The first one is the family problem. It refers to a physical, emotional, or financial problems which always held among the family members, which also impact day to day operational activities of the business. Next is the information culture and structure. For many businesses, having a laid back culture is of course positive, but informal structure and culture found in many family business, they don't even care about the documentation process, the policies, the strategies, and of course the business goals as of the family. Next, pressure to hire family members. Sometimes it could be very difficult to resist the pressure that come along with the request from the family members to hire the more family members and include only family members rather than you can say looking up the high quality you can say employees, skillful employees, experienced employees. They just mainly hire the family members due to the family pressure to hold the roles for it. Next, lack of training. The informal culture found in many family business can also result in a lax approach to train new employees, whether they are family members or not. The next challenge would be the high turnover of non-family employees. Non-family employees may also feel a greater opportunities exist within the business for those who are a part of the family and grow tired of the culture. Next is the sources of growth. A huge challenge for the family members is to determine where and how to get capital and resource needed to upgrade the business. Next is a lack of external view, as family members may not always have the same opinions, so somehow they have a similar background, upbringing, and life experiences, which leads to a uniform view of the business. Next is a misunderstanding the value of the business and how it is to be divided. The owners of family businesses may have a different opinion on the value of their business, and they know even they don't have knowledge about the value of business, and they didn't know about what things contribute to and detract from that value. So it is very important to determine that how to split the profits of the business or owner's stake among the members of the family. Next, who will take over the business? It is also important for the family business to plan ahead for family succession. Sometimes the family owned business do not have a plan in place, and they turn into a heated arguments, and the instance family politics is also harm the company reputation. So it should, if it you can say violate the family concern, then there would be a time arises to select a new leadership or a new leader, or you can say runner of the family. And then last issue is no exit plan. Once the family business has decided the leadership for its own business, and due to the lack of defined strategy that what will happen if the owner wants to retire, then of course either they sell the business, they transfer the responsibility, and this goes hand to hand with the succession plan issues, and all business need a plan for the future for this concern. The next concept is a family control. What is exactly the family control? Family control is refers to that degree of power, the influence, the ownership that the family exerts over the business. It always ensures the long-term continuity through the management roles and the significant voting right, and that's why it is defined by the concentrative ownership, often 10 to 25% or more, and active participation in the decision making by the family members who serve as a governance structure. Next are the key aspects of the family control. The first one is a business definition. So a company is considered to be family controlled if the family hold a substantial portion of shares that enables them to direct strategic action. Next is dimension. It also encompasses the ownership, the management involvement, like family members as CEO or chairperson or any board control. Next is threshold. The researchers define it when the largest shareholder is an individual or a family with a 10% or 20% stake. Next is what would be the impact of it. It enhances the long-term stability and commitment, and sometimes leads to agency conflicts as well. Next is reason or example. It is highly prevalent in certain regions like Mexico, Belgium, and less common in others, that is United Kingdom. The next concept is a culture in family business. Culture in family business is a set of shared value, norms, customs, tradition, which are often rooted in the founder vision and dictate behavior, decision making, and the long run strategy. It also acts as a competitive advantage by build up the trust, loyalty, and long-term focus while blending the familial emotional elements with the business goals. The next section, what are the key characteristics and the components of the family control? First is a founder influence. The original values or stories, the key characteristics of the family culture. That could be the one of the characteristics is a founder influence. The original values, stories, and the vision of the founder. Of course, they also define the company culture across the generations. Long-term orientation. Their decisions is also related to the sustainable environment, multi-generational growth over the long-term quarterly profits. Core values and integrity. A strong commitment to ethical principle is passed down, influencing the relationship with the employees and customers. And the last one is the familyness. A sense of stewardship where the business is being cared is like a family asset is leading to a high dedication or devotion. The next section are the types of family business cultures. The first type is a clan culture. It's mainly focused on high trust, loyalty, mentoring, and a cohesive family-like environment. The next is entrepreneur culture. It's mainly focused on innovation, calculated risk taking, and how to identify the new opportunities. Next is a hierarchical culture. It mainly focuses on tradition, respect for elders, and a structured authority. The next is market and results culture. It's mainly centered on competitiveness, competition, performance, and achieving the specific targets. Now, what are the family business culture? What would be the impact of such on performance? The first is strength. It creates a family feel that that motivates the employee retention power, increases the loyalty, and allow for a rapid and agile decision making process by tight king leadership. The next is challenges. If not managed properly, the deep seated emotional, personal, or intergenerational conflicts as always exist that leads to a instability and dysfunctional areas. Next is a cultural fit. It aligns the personal family values with business practices, could be a complex for the long term sustainability. How to cultivate a positive culture? The first one is the family council, using the structured meetings to separate the family emotions from business decisions. Next is a shared vision, developing a long term, for example, 30 years vision to align the family members and just clarify their roles, their expectations, etc. Next is rituals. In order to maintain the traditions like family dinners, specific business meeting, just to feel up their cultural norms. Now we can talk about the next. What are the merits of culture in family business? Trust and loyalty. The trust is always create a loyal, supportive environment. It leads to a higher employee retention. The next is a long-term orientation. It's mainly focused on sustainability, legacy, encourage the strategic decision making rather than focus on the short term goals. Next is a strong shared values. It aligns with goals and ethics that leads to a better reputation, integrity in business relationships. And next advantage is unified purpose. A shared and nurturing culture can create a high morally, a strong sense of belongingness. Next is commitment and flexibility. Family member is always shows a greater dedication, and of course there would be a chance to sacrifice, that is lower pay, long hours for the business, allowing for a faster adaptation when someone new join a family business. Let's talk about the demerits of culture in family business. The first one is conflict and emotional strain. An intense or personalized, sometimes messy conflicts can also arise. It could be difficult to separate the professional from personal issues. Next is nepotism and the competence issues. The culture should always focus on family members rather than qualified outsiders, which leads to a resentment in the metro city. And of course, placing the unqualified relatives in the key role could be a disadvantage in the family business. Next is a resistance to change. It should deeply ingrained traditions. Sometimes deeply tradition followers can also make the organization slow to adapt a new innovative practices or to formalize the operations. Succession dispute. The lack of professional and formal planning is also lead to the instance destructive dispute when passing the business to the next generation. Next is blurred boundaries. The inability to leave work at the office can also lead to a burnout and constant. It's all due to the family pressure. The next section is the availability of family business. Family business are highly valuable. It's of course it outperform the non-family concern due to the strong commitment, strong values, and the long-term patient capital. Their longevity is challenging, with only about 30% surviving to the second generation and 16% to the third generation. Success depends on the formalizing the operation, how they manage the conflict, how they professionalize the succession planning to overcome the potential emotional trauma. The next section is what are the key factors affecting viability. The first one is the succession planning. The biggest hurdle in passing the business is the third generation, to the next generation, or second generation, or the third generation, with many failing to survive beyond the founder or second generation as well. The next factor is the conflict resolution. Family dispute, jealousy, and the traumas can strongly impact the professional relationship and business operation. Next is a professionalization. Successful family business separate family life from the business. It hire of in fact the non-family professional are ready to fill such gaps. Next, long-term focus. A focus on legacy allow these firms to stay in a stable environment and maintain the high employee turnover ratio. The next section is the advantages of longevity. The first one is a strong commitment. Family members invest more time and effort, which willing to accept the lower pay during the crisis to survive for the family business. Next, high performance. Family owned firms frequently exhibit the higher profitability and growth compared to the non-family businesses. Now we can come up to the next section, that is risks and challenges. First one is the emotional decision making. Sometimes personal or emotional conflicts can negatively impact the company financial health also. Next is limited talent pool. Forcing family business into the leadership role without evaluating the proper skills can also influence the business operations too. For the long-term viability, it is recommended to create a formal governance structure, a clear and documented succession plan, and a healthy balance. Maintain the healthy balance between the family ownership and management roles. The next section is a family management practices. Family management practices includes organizing, planning, controlling the resources and their routine activities to increase the healthy and nurturing and efficient home environment. There are key practices that involve to establish a consistent routine, open communication, effective delegation of household chores, financial budgeting, monitoring the children's safety and their behavior. and these practices are mainly for the family well-being, how to reduce the stress and promote a positive development of the members. What are the key aspects of the effective family management? The first one is a household organization. It also creates a daily and a weekly core schedules to maintain any functional home like cleaning, meal planning, organizing the shared spaces. Next is effective communication and rules. Setting clear, consistent expectation rules for behavior. Definitely, when we developed collaboratory to increase ownership. Next is time management and planning, utilizing the shared calendars for schools, work, and social appointments to manage the busy schedules. Next is parenting and monitoring, actively supervising children's is of course providing an emotional support, mentor the desired behavior, and of course ultimately modeling the positive action for the members. The next is conflict resolution, managing the disagreements on a silent or peacefully on a silent manner or peacefully by listening, avoiding interruptions, and addressing issues directly to them to minimize stress. Next is financial management, budgeting and teaching the financial responsibility to the family members are most important, that whenever needed to manage the finance not only for the home but also for the family business, it is important to have to prepare the strategy that how it could manage the finance for such a large family businesses. The next is section is a coping strategies in family businesses. When we talk about the coping strategies in family businesses are mainly essential for navigating the unique interaction of emotional family dynamics and the professional business demands. There are plenty of effective strategies which mainly focus to separate family from business, to increase the open communication, to ensure the fairness, and to build the emotional resilience among the family members of the businesses. So these are the key coping strategies in family business. The first, to establish a clear boundaries and communication. Separate the work and family. Formalize the open communication. Just use the regular scheduled family meetings and the governance structure to discuss about the business, and which keep discussions structured and less emotional. Use third party advisor. Utilize the independent directors, consultants, and mentors to provide the unbiased professional's perspective and mitigate the potential conflicts. The next practice is the professionalism, the management and governance. Role clarity is must. Assign the roles and responsibility and compensation based on skills, competence, and merit basis, rather than family, seniority, and bloodline. Next is objective performance evaluation. It is important to implement the performance reviews for family members that is rigorous as those for non-family employees. The next is succession planning. Proactively plan for leadership transition by preparing the next generation for independence and accordingly define a clear, fair, and documented roles. The next is emotional resilience and well-being. Just build a supportive culture. To to build up a hostile environment of empathy and understand, to manage stress and encourage the open dialogue about the concern and celebrate success. Next is manage personal stress. Encourage family members to engage in self care like exercises, hobbies, time off to reduce burnout. Next, to develop the external network. Connect with other family business owners through industry association to share the experiences and gain perspectives. And the last is strategic adaptation for long term sustainability. To have strategic flexibility, they must have the financial discipline and focus on the long term goals. The next is a specific coping mechanism for co-preneurs, that is spouse partners. The first is integrated coping. In such co-preneurial businesses, managing the work family conflict involves a blended personal coping like self-care, family friending policies, and flexible working arrangement is must. Let's talk about the last section, the prominent contemporary role models and their contribution. So there are major role models: Reliance Industries, Mukesh Ambani; Aditya Birla Group, Kumar Mangalam Birla; Godrej Consumer Product, Nisaba Godrej. So these are the prominent contemporary role models and what they have contributed to their family businesses. They transformed a legacy textile company in case of Reliance Industries. They have successfully built a global empire across 34 plus countries and maintained the core Indian business values. And when we talk about the Godrej Consumer Products, Nisaba Godrej has reinvigorated the company with a focus on innovation, professional management, and consumer centric approaches. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening this lecture. I will come up to a more important, relevant in the upcoming session. So till time, thank you and namaste to all.